You sit down to finally rest, and within minutes your mind starts listing everything you should be doing instead. There is a version of you that only exists when you are still, not busy, not producing, not checking anything off a list, just still. And if you are honest, that version feels almost like a stranger. The moment your hands are empty and your schedule has a gap in it, something inside you starts to itch. A quiet, uncomfortable pressure that says you should be doing something, not because there is actually something urgent waiting, but because doing nothing feels wrong in a way you cannot fully explain. You tell yourself you are just tired. You tell yourself you will rest later, once things calm down, once the list gets shorter, once you have earned it. But the list never gets shorter, and the rest never quite arrives, because somewhere along the way you learned that rest is not something you are allowed to simply take. It is something you have to deserve first. Where did that belief come from? That is the first open question this video sits with, and the answer might surprise you, because it is not really about laziness or discipline at all. Here is something worth saying clearly, even if it stings a little. If your first instinct after finishing something big is to immediately ask what is next, instead of letting yourself feel finished, you have probably spent years training yourself out of stillness without even realizing it. Some people will feel a small flash of recognition. Others will feel defensive. Like stillness is a waste. Like rest is for people who are not serious about their lives. Both reactions are worth paying attention to because they point at the same wound from two different directions. Most people did not decide as adults that rest has to be earned. That belief was installed much earlier, often so early that it feels like a personality trait instead of a lesson someone taught you. Think about the early messages you absorbed about your own worth, not the ones anyone said out loud necessarily, but the ones woven into daily life. The praise that only came after achievement, the attention that sharpened when you brought home results and faded when you simply existed without anything to show. The subtle approval that followed busyness and the subtle discomfort that followed rest. If the adults around you were constantly moving, constantly producing, constantly treating stillness as something suspicious or even shameful, you learned without anyone explaining it directly that your value was tied to your output, not to who you were, to what you did. That lesson is incredibly efficient. It does not need cruelty to take root. It only needs consistency. A childhood where affection and approval reliably followed accomplishment will teach a child, faster than any lecture could, that being loved and being productive are the same thing. And once that wire gets crossed early enough, it does not disappear when you grow up. It becomes the quiet operating system running underneath your adult life. This is the deeper root beneath the guilt you feel when you rest. It was never really about time management. It is about identity. Somewhere inside you, doing has become proof that you are allowed to exist comfortably in the world. And rest without a task attached to it feels like removing that proof, which is why stillness can feel so strangely unsafe even when nothing dangerous is actually happening. Notice what this creates in adulthood. A kind of restlessness that never fully turns off. You might call it ambition or responsibility, or just being a hard worker, and sometimes it genuinely is those things. But underneath the socially acceptable label, there is often a second, quieter motive. Not the desire to build something meaningful, but the fear of what happens if you stop. If you stop and nothing falls apart and no one notices and the world keeps turning just fine without your constant effort, some part of you is terrified that this means you were never as necessary or as valuable as your busyness made you feel. So you keep moving. You fill your calendar until there is no white space left, and then you feel a strange relief in that fullness because a full calendar quiets the voice that questions your worth. You take on more than you can comfortably hold and call it ambition. You feel guilty watching a show, guilty lying in bed past a certain hour, guilty taking a walk without listening to something that will make you smarter or more efficient. Even your relaxation gets colonized by productivity because pure, purposeless rest feels too exposed, too close to that old, unbearable question of whether you are enough without doing anything at all. Here's the part that quietly breaks people down over the years. Even when you finally do sit still, your mind does not let you actually land there. A voice starts narrating. It sounds like your own thoughts, so you rarely question it. But if you listen closely, it sounds a lot like judgment. You should be doing something useful right now. This is a waste of time. Other people are working while you are just sitting here. That voice is not protecting you. It is repeating an old script, one that was handed to you long before you had the ability to question it. This is usually the moment people either shut the video off, uncomfortable with how familiar this feels, or lean in closer because they finally have language for something they have felt their entire life but never named. If this is starting to feel less like a video and more like a mirror, that is exactly the point where it becomes worth staying with me, because understanding where this pattern came from is only the beginning. The next part is about how you actually begin loosening its grip, one honest moment at a time. And if that is something you want more of, this is the kind of thing we work through here regularly. The belief that rest must be earned feels like a fact, but it is actually just an old rule, inherited rather than chosen. And old rules can be examined. They can be challenged. They can, slowly, be replaced. The first shift is recognizing that rest is not the opposite of productivity. It is the foundation underneath it. Your body and mind were never designed to run on constant output. Every system that keeps you functioning physically and mentally requires recovery in order to keep working well. Rest is not a reward you unlock after enough effort. It is maintenance. It is what allows the effort to continue being possible at all. Treating it as optional is like refusing to put fuel in a car until it has already broken down on the highway. The second shift is separating your worth from your output, even if only in small experimental moments at first. This does not mean abandoning ambition or responsibility. It means practicing the idea that you are allowed to exist fully and acceptably, even in the minutes when you are producing nothing. Your value was never actually a performance metric. It was assigned to you, mistakenly, by people or circumstances that measured love through achievement. You are allowed to unlearn their math. The third shift is learning to sit with the discomfort of stillness without immediately obeying it. That itch to get up and do something is not a command. It is a habit, formed over years, and habits weaken the moment you stop automatically following them. The first few times you rest on purpose, without earning it first, it may feel almost unbearable. Your mind may spiral through everything undone. That discomfort is not proof you are doing something wrong. It is proof that you are finally interrupting a pattern that has run unquestioned for a very long time. Start small. Choose one moment today, not someday today, where you allow yourself to stop without justifying it first. No task finished beforehand as an excuse. No mental tally of what you have earned. Just a few quiet minutes where you let yourself simply be a person, not a project. Notice the guilt if it shows up. Let it be there without obeying it. You are not lazy for wanting stillness. You are not broken for needing rest. You were only ever taught by circumstance and repetition that your worth had to be proven. And what was taught can, with patience, be gently untaught. The guilt you feel when you rest was never really about the resting. It was about an old, quiet belief that you have to keep earning the right to simply exist. You do not. You already do. And the sooner you let that truth sit beside you, even in the smallest, quietest moments of your day, the sooner stillness will start to feel less like danger and more like home. If any part of this felt like your own story tonight, I would genuinely like to know which part hit hardest, because chances are you are not the only one who needed to hear it.